The Detroit Pistons are, as recording this, are coming off a great overtime victory against the Charlotte Hornets. But we want to talk about something different. NBA trade time, trade season is officially kind of getting underway. And so when we're looking at this and we're talking about trades, I saw an article recently that I thought was interesting that has credible sources. During this time of year, when you talk about trades and you're hearing rumors, get off the discussion boards. Stop worrying about random national media people trying to get news stories. Stick with the people that you know. Stick with the people that are telling you stuff. And one person that I have found to be a very, very consistent source as far as being honest and being forthright with the things that he's saying is James Edwards III. And there's a few other people as well. But in this article, we have one from Bleacher Report, and it's talking about the Pistons aren't eager to trade Bojan. Not a huge surprise here. The price would have to be very good because he is very good. But Saddiq Bey is, quote, gettable. This is interesting to me. This is something that I had started to wonder and something that I had thought about. And here's the guy that you want to hear. According to James Edwards III of The Athletic, the LA Lakers are one of multiple teams who have shown interest in Bogdanovich. We've talked about this. As for Bey, Edwards called him gettable at the right price. Here's the question. What do the Pistons want in return for Saddiq Bey, and how much do they reasonably think they can get? Troy Weaver has done many, many good things. And sometimes he and every GM thinks that his own player is probably worth more than they actually are. When we look at what Saddiq Bey has done, and it goes on and it does say a couple things about what Saddiq Bey has done in this article, what we realize pretty quickly is that if you just put together and you say, all right, here's what Saddiq Bey's done this season. So I'll read it for you. He started 17 of 25 games. He averages 14.8 points, 4.4 boards, and 2 assists. That's actually not bad. And 1.6 3-pointers made. Here's the problem. He's shooting 29.9% from the 3-point line. He has declined in his shooting each of his 3 years at Detroit. And here's the problem that I think we are looking at as a fan base. We were so high on Saddiq Bey as a rookie. And it's like, oh, he's streaky, so it's okay. He can be streaky because he's a rookie. Then year two, he came out of the gates last year so slow, and he was really, really struggling with his shooting. And then he started to heat up, and then we remember that 50-point game against the Magic. Here's the problem, everybody. Saddiq Bey is streaky. There has to come a point where you realize the sample size is big enough that the dude is just not the 40% three-point shooter we saw in Villanova. But here's the problem with Saddiq Bey, and I want to make sure I get all this out before you turn this video off. We love Saddiq. Why do we love Saddiq? He is the epitome of Detroit grit. From everything we hear going out into the woods and into the mountains, I should say, because he just wants to get stronger and he wants to continue to train. He's the gym rat. He can't get out of that gym. He loves it there. So we love everything about Saddiq. Here's the problem on the floor. He doesn't equate to what you need. He's a guy that is probably yes, he's gotten so much better at driving to the basket, but he's a guy who's probably the fourth or fifth guy on the team you want taking it to the basket. You want Cade taking it to the basket. You want Ivy taking it obviously to the basket. You want Killian Hayes taking it to the basket. You want Burks. You want Bogdanovich. These are all guys that are probably better options in a drive than Saddiq. And because not only are they better finishers, but they're better. If they're not a better finisher, they're better at creating opportunities for others. So while he's gotten and improved greatly on his driving to the hoop, he's still not wonderful in it. It's just the role we're asking him to do is shoot more than he would. That's why he's still averaging almost 15 points a game. Here's the problem. What you want Saddiq to be, what you need Saddiq to be is a 3-and-D. You don't need Saddiq to be this great driver, slasher, scorer. You need Saddiq to be able to shoot. You have your slashers and drivers and scorers. You have your mid-range deadeye Cade Cunningham. I know he's out for the year, but we're talking about future here, people. You have your slasher. You have your driver. It's Jaden Ivey. He's your dude. You have Jalen Duren, who you've realized is the future at center, and he's been starting, and his rebound numbers are out of control, right? So you realize, and he's gonna clog the paint a little bit. So you don't need another guy doing that. You need a floor spacer. You flat out need a floor spacer. That's it. And so you have Saddiq Bey, who's been moved to the bench. You have Saddiq Bey, who before Livers was hurt, Livers was starting in front of him. You have Saddiq Bey, who's being outplayed by Knox currently. Just remember that. But here's the problem. All I've talked about is offense. What about the defensive end? Saddiq Bey is not good on defense. Look, people, sometimes we just have to look at the facts. He's not shooting well. He's a liability. At best, he's an okay defender, but he's a liability on the defensive end. And he's not rebounding the ball like he did at one point in his career because we've switched to the two big lineup. That's hurting Saddiq Bey. Isaiah Stewart, the emergence of Isaiah Stewart and being able to shoot three-pointers is destroying Saddiq Bey's chances of playing in this lineup often. What people don't realize is that Saddiq Bey and Isaiah Stewart are very similar in size. They both have a big build. But Isaiah Stewart has always been this big, broad-chested guy that we're just assuming is going to play in the post. Well, now that he's starting to shoot and he's on the perimeter, all of a sudden you're realizing like, oh, Isaiah Stewart's the 3 and D4 that we've wanted. And Saddiq Bey is just kind of a slow 3 that can't shoot. So the floor spacing gets all jammed up. It gets discombobulated. So when we're talking about Saddiq Bey trades, you're talking to me, a guy who would be much more willing and much more eager to trade Saddiq Bey than Bojan Bogdanovic. I understand Saddiq Bey's only 23. I understand there can be a lot of improvement. There can be a lot of things like that. But what can you get in return? And here we are 7 minutes into this video. I'm finally talking about it. What I'd be looking for is a young 3-and-D wing in return for him plus a second-round pick because his production is higher. So, and especially because he's coming off the role as a good bench scorer, a lot of these guys, and I'm going to talk about two guys that it's like, wait, are they the same player? And they're not. I promise they're not the same player. But the first person I want to talk to all of you about is a guy by the name of Jalen McDaniels. Jalen McDaniels, he plays for the team we just played that we beat in that awesome, thrilling game. Go watch it if you haven't yet. But he's a guy who is going to be a 36, 37% three-point shooter for his career. He's more of a long, lanky guy. He could fill in at the 4 role. He can play the 3. He's a guy who just doesn't get in the way. That's a decent defender. He's just a decent defender. And so that's one person that I would be looking at. I think when you look at another person, and this is absolutely funny to me, and it's a guy who's very similar. It's Jaden McDaniels of the Timberwolves. I sometimes wonder, I think Jalen's more gettable because he's been in the league a little bit longer. But Jaden is the same idea. He's a long, lanky guy that's going to give you 24 to 29 minutes a night. And these two guys are guys that could fill the role that we're hoping Isaiah Livers can, but has always been too injured to fill. And maybe you want to just keep rolling with Knox and Livers. And that's what you've decided are your two guys. That's what you're going with. They're your floor spacers. They're going to make it happen. I'm at the point right now when Livers comes back from this shoulder injury that with Saddiq Bey, if you're not playing Livers and you're not playing Knox at the 3, you are not playing your best 2 small forwards. And you can disagree with me all you want on that. You can talk about the points. You can talk about things like that. They're both better defenders. They both are shooting at a higher clip from 3, and they are doing the things that we need from this team right now. Off the bench unit, Alec Burks is still your scorer. Marvin Bagley is still your scorer off the bench. These are the guys that are going to be looking to get points. Saddiq Bey is still the third option. You don't need a huge scoring player on that second unit. You need a guy who can space the floor, just like you need a guy who can space the floor on the first unit going forward for this team. So getting another one of those guys is never a bad call, especially with the injury history of Livers. So that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think. And hey, we'll see you on the next one.